What's going on, everyone, and welcome back into another episode of Expected Bets 4. On today's episode, we'll be breaking down the games for February 8th. We have a decent slate, good, I believe, 7-game slate going on. But before we get into kind of news and notes around the NHL, let's bring in the rest of the crew. Betzky, how we doing out there in Arizona?
Yeah, doing well. I was in Pittsburgh for the past weekend, which was a lot of fun. Great city. Definitely check it out if you've never been. But yeah, I got a little bit of that East Coast weather. It wasn't too bad. You guys complain too much.
Yeah, speaking of Pennsylvania, Franco, how we doing?
Great, man. You weren't too far from me, but Pittsburgh's still a little bit of a hike from where I am. But yeah, I'm ready for hockey to get back, man. The All-Star break was kind of pain. I don't know why I bet I should have taken it off and rest and relax, but instead I decided to bet soccer and the skills competition stuff and just burn some money because I'm an idiot. So let's win some money. What do you say?
Yeah. Speaking of the NHL All-Star game, obviously I think we kind of all agreed here the format was more exciting in general than kind of the years past, but what a shit show in terms of kind of the betting odds here. I mean, we saw Pedersen win the the passing competition with he held onto that puck at the last few seconds for like 3 seconds. He had it on his stick, and then they still gave him the win, which was just utterly ridiculous in its own. And you could see just kind of the NHL gambling Twitter just fire off tweets exploding. So I think most of the people were on Makar on that side.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It felt like the rules were just like, we're gonna take rules into account for this, but not for this. And I don't know. It was just kind of weird. That stat correction on Pasta for that one-timer thing was pretty tilting. That cost me a plus 550 or whatever it was, plus 500 bet. So I think what it comes down to is don't bet money, or at least real money on that. Throw a couple bucks if you want some fun, but otherwise just
enjoy the night off.
Yeah.
Enjoy the night off.
It was a fun watch. It was a fun watch. I'll give them credit there. They definitely made the competition more fun, except for Cooch, who just didn't give a shit at all.
Man.
Yeah. Was he hammered, or like he just went out there and was like, I don't want to be here. Like this just sucks.
I think that is how he felt.
Yeah.
I think he was really hoping to take that full week off. And I mean, that's what happens when you're one of the best.
Why go though? Can't he decline?
I know. Yeah.
Well, why put him in this? Why even put him in this?
Lose. I think you get suspended pay for like 2 games if you don't go or something.
But like Vegas had no players in it, right? A couple of teams had no players actually go, correct? So like what happened? What happens on those teams like that? They're just penalized and they don't give a shit. They're like, forget.
I don't think Chicago did either because
Bedard was out.
Bedard was out too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even Kucherov, like, why would they put him in the skills competition if he doesn't want to be there? Yeah, he'll play in the All-Star game the next day, but if he's going to go out there and just do that, like, he should at least given him a heads up and said, "Hey,
I don't really.
I'm not doing this." Yeah.
Well, I did see too that like once you do it, I guess they're never going to have the same players in again next year. That's what I thought I had heard or something. So
I remember we were talking about that. I think that's right, but they're not even doing it next year now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the next year will be the tournament. No All-Star.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and then I think the year after that is Olympics. So we may not have an All-Star game for 2 more years, and then they'll probably have to pick up the pieces again and try to figure out what the hell to do.
Yeah, at that point, I'll probably be betting on it again too. How
it's gonna go. Last time.
I think that was fun.
They had to figure it out. Yeah. I think we won some money. Yeah, and so obviously the All-Star break was kind of the main headlines, but there's also some moves made around the NHL. Elias Lindholm goes to Vancouver, and in return, Calgary gets Kuzmenko, 2 prospects, and a first-round pick. Shockingly enough, kind of both players at games last night scored. It was funny. I think it was StatMuse or one of them was kind of trying to dunk on Calgary fans, basically saying Kuzmenko scored 1 goal since the trade, and then sure enough, they kind of all just started firing off some tweets, so that was pretty funny. And then the other kind of trade around the NHL was Monahan to Winnipeg to bolster that team, who looks pretty good right now. They did drop a game to Pittsburgh last night, so that's kind of interesting as well. Any thoughts on either trade?
Well, what do you guys think? Like, I've seen a lot of people in outrage for the Monahan trade, right? Because they're like, Monahan for first, that's ridiculous. He's not worth it and all that stuff. Which, yeah, on the surface, like when you're thinking about a guy like Monahan who's older and, you know, it probably a 3C on most teams, I would say. There's shouldn't be worth a first overall or first round pick, right? But like that pick's not going to be a high pick. It's going to be a 24, 25, 26, depending on how deep Winnipeg goes.
Yeah.
What is the real value of that pick? You know what I mean? Like, I know that there are players you can hit and you can get lucky on guys late in the draft, but like in reality,
still probably like 30% hit rate,
yeah,
or
you know what I mean?
If that, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like people are in an outrage, like a first round pick, that's ridiculous. But like, is it? Like if he bolsters your center depth and makes them a deeper team, like I don't know. They needed another center. Like let's be honest here. Like Nemesnikov on your first or second line is not going to cut it.
Yeah,
now
Lowry
it looks
now
all right.
Onto the third line too.
Yeah. So now you got Lowry on the third, and you're good with Scheifele back. So I don't know. I don't hate it as much as the idea is, but I mean, what do you guys think as far as that goes?
I think when teams are constantly going for it and they're giving out first over first, I start to think that even though those first round picks may be a little bit later, at some point you kind of need some sort of blue chips or some ammo for other types of trades, or making a trade for a guy who may be signed longer than the rest of the season and at the draft or something. I feel like there's better ways to maneuver that, but Winnipeg's been fortunate to draft high recently. I mean, they drafted Perfetti at like 12th overall in 2020. Yeah. I'm trying to, I know they made the playoffs last season, but they were in the, like, they were bumped out of the first round. So they were probably picking the late teens. They had a nice draft in 2021 where they got Brad Lambert and someone else. I'm trying to think of his name. I think he's like a power forward too. So they've had extra firsts. They've had firsts in the teens. So when you're having a season like they're having, and you were the top team in the league at one point, yeah, I think that's when you trade that blue chip, because it's probably not as valuable as it is on paper. So now again, if they're starting to reach and starting to move first for Monahan caliber players when they're more of a bubble team, or if they were to get bounced in the first again this season, that's when I would say, well, I mean, is the Monahan missing piece the issue, or is it something much larger? But yeah, I don't mind it. No. And I think Winnipeg's kind of a sneaky. I mean, they were the Cup favorites at one point too when they went on that run. Obviously, I think the odds have been adjusted now, but I don't hate it for this team. Kind of speaking of Stanley Cup favorites here, the Oilers have obviously shot up kind of the odds board given their streak of 16, which unfortunately came to an end at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights. I hate Vegas so much. I fucking hate that team so much. They win the Stanley Cup like last year. Like, what more do you need? Just like let McDavid and that Oilers team have some fun. Like, let them capture the NHL win streak. But no, stopped short last night, which I think was a tough kind of spot for them to even begin with. Coming off the All-Star break too, and then having to go to Vegas. You wonder if McDavid just stayed there.
Yeah,
Draisaitl stay there, or do they go back?
Yeah,
I think probably went back home.
I don't know. I mean, it's tough, and like I said earlier, Vegas didn't send anybody to the All-Star game, so they were ready. They were waiting for this game, so it's a bad spot. The All-Star game kind of resets everything. All the streaks, all the things leading into it. That was like literally the perfect storm for them to fail in that situation. Unfortunately, if they could have had that one game on the opposite side of it, I'm sure they. If it was during that stretch before the All-Star break, I would have liked their chance a lot better. But I mean, we saw it with Reinhardt's goal streak too, getting snapped yesterday as well against Philly, where Florida couldn't even score a goal against them. So they
Yeah.
got one goal against them. And I think this is like the great reset. So we almost got to take that into account as well when we're betting. You know, don't take what we saw prior to the break as anything. All these teams are coming in fresh now, and now it's crunch time. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas had goaltender issues too for a while, and then Hale returns from the injury and has just looked phenomenal. So clearly, I mean, Vegas obviously still had some injury issues outside of Hill and everything, but still, I think that's a key piece for them to get back, especially if they're going to look to make another Stanley Cup run this season. Outside
Is
of
he
that,
a Vezina dark horse, or has he missed too many games? I think he's tied for the lead in shutouts already.
He should be if he's not.
I mean,
I wonder,
yeah, sure, he didn't play as many games as Hellebuck did or whatnot. He may not have as many dubs under it, but
so he has 18 games played. Demko and Hellebuck, who are above him in goals saved above expected, have 36. So they almost have double the amount of games played.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, because I mean he's only 0.1 goals saved above expected behind Demko, who's in second right now. So he's kind of right near that top tier. But I think this is Hellebuck's race to lose, pretty much at this point it seems. Especially if Hellebuck ends up playing 10, even 12 more games, because I'm sure they're going to start to run Hill.
Yeah,
like pretty heavily going towards the second half of the season here. So I guess it's something to keep an eye out on, you know. If you
I mean, especially if an injury occurs to Hellebuck or something like that, that could be big. Obviously, I'd be ready to pull the trigger in that situation.
Same here.
Yeah. I was trying to look up the odds right here in terms of, so Hill's 13-1 right now, Hellebuck's even money, and Demko's plus 250 here. So that's kind of where you're at. So, I mean, I guess if you're going to pull on Aiden Hill, now would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
13-1 seems like it has some value, but yeah. Other news too, Todd McLellan fired by the Kings after the Kings kind of went into that slump here. Jim Hiller, who is the assistant coach there, will replace him. Interesting move here. Obviously, I think the Kings needed something to shake up that team who was just kind of in that major rut. I know before the All-Star break, the Kings gave up that 3-goal lead to the Sabres, and that kind of started their downfall with Doughty coming out and chirping a few players, and then McLellan kind of in his press conference taking accountability for it. But curious to hear what kind of your thoughts are. I mean, the Kings, like we said before the podcast, the Kings aren't in a bad spot at all right now in terms of the standings.
No, it's kind of surprising that they weathered that storm. You know, we see the coach boost all the time, so I wouldn't be very surprised if they get a boost here. I heard something interesting on the 32 Thoughts podcast yesterday, though, of there's some other shuffling pieces here, and the fact that the assistant coach moving up to head coach spot can be a little bit more awkward depending on how that assistant's role is. And there was some chatter about how he is very much a player's coach, very friendly, isn't too harsh on the players at all. And now he's going to have to kind of turn into that mean cop. So they said they kind of hinted that maybe those situations are a little bit harder to get the most out of players or have that spike. Who else is the assistant coach that got moved up? Blues, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we saw the same coaching change spark as we saw with like Minnesota at first.
Even Calgary in the offseason, right?
Yeah, and I always feel like off-season ones, there's always some like period of adapting. But yeah, now we're seeing Calgary adapted to the new coach, and they're looking a lot better than they did the first 2 weeks of the season. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be quite that spark that you typically see. I think they'll probably start turning this around. But again, goaltending is a huge issue right there, and that may not get better.
Yeah.
Hey man, we said in the beginning of the season, as good as their forward depth was, they can score, but can their goalie stop the puck? And I don't think anything's changing there.
Yeah, I mean they're like getting Arvidsson back, but that's a nice piece. But is it you know, it's not like getting Kaprizov back like Minnesota got, or
when he wins above replacement is a year.
Exactly. And the blue line kind of is what it is. Brant Clark doesn't necessarily seem like a game changer yet. seems like he's still adapting. It seems like they kind of gave up on Jersey a little too soon now, and yeah, there's some cracks there for sure.
Yeah,
and I mean the PLD issue is huge. If he doesn't, I mean, imagine if he starts dragging his feet or more, or if he starts not responding to a coach who may have been kind of chummy with him, and now he's having to be like the main guy. I feel like that could be like a player that could really make a bad situation get worse.
Who's going to take on that contract though?
No one. I don't know. He seems to be getting traded pretty often, so I guess somebody.
Yeah, but the cat may be out of the bag now. I mean, he's only been traded twice, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Columbus to Winnipeg, and now Winnipeg to
Arizona will take him on, right?
Oh, jeez.
Where contracts go to die, right?
Yeah. All that young talent, and just insert that issue in the locker room too. Yeah.
God.
Oh, that's a Yotes.
Sorry,
the Yotes fan dream. All right, let's get into the games for tomorrow for February 8th. 7-game slate, like I said before. Some pretty good games. We'll start with the first one here. We got Vancouver traveling to Boston. Boston minus 130 on the money line. Over under set at 6 here. Interesting matchups. So Boston obviously dropped their first game coming back from the break, losing to Calgary 4-1. Vancouver won their first game after the break, 3-2 versus Carolina. Both teams are kind of on a win streak here. Boston 7-3 in their last 10. Vancouver 8-2 in their last 10. Pretty exciting matchup. I mean, for Thursday night, this entire slate looks great here. But I'll start with you here, Betzky. Any thoughts on? Do you think Boston can bounce back, or do you kind of think Vancouver keeps it rolling here?
I think Boston has to bounce back a little bit here because they looked. I mean, they just looked like and I imagine they heard about it. I imagine that things haven't been the most fun these past 2 days or the day off they'll have. So I think this is a really nice bounce back spot for Boston. I definitely like the under here, just a little bit more of a tighter game. I guess we'll need to see if Demko's starting or not. That the more I think about that, maybe the over would be more kind of interesting here. I'd need to look into the history of the two teams too. But one prop that stands out for me right now, and I'll either use it as a parlay piece or we may actually get good enough value on it, is Lindholm point and potentially a shot. So he was placed at 1.5 against Carolina. I have no idea why. I know Carolina is good at suppressing shots, but I've never seen Lindholm at 1.5 in 3+ years I've been handicapping, which it was just really bizarre. If they keep him at 1.5, I'm taking that again and finding some nice value with maybe another kind of chalky piece or maybe a longer parlay. It's just a nice piece to add. And I think him and Pettersson on the top line are going to start doing some damage. That is a nice 1-2 punch. I loved what I saw with what he brought to Carolina. I was surprised that Lindholm didn't have great history against Carolina, his former team that drafted him back in 2015, right?
15 is what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. No, he was the Carolina drafted Hannafin.
Oh, let me look.
And did they may have traded or drafted Lindholm too. That may be a 2013. Jeez, time flies.
Wow, 2013. You're right.
Yeah. This is the year with Domi and McKinnon. That was a McKinnon year, Seth Jones. Anyways, and Barkov. But yeah, I think this is a nice fit for that top line. I think I was excited to kind of see him not playing wing too. I think there's a lot of chemistry that will kind of build up here, and I think we're going to get some nice value because the books aren't going to be totally sure where to place him right away. So before he becomes unbettable, I want to either use him as kind of parlay pieces or these straights, depending on what they give us for his point. Lots of other little parlay pieces kind of in Boston right now. Zacha has been great for his 1.5 shots, centering the second line. Yep. Coyle's kind of steamed off a little bit as far as the shots go. I'm kind of interested to see if they'll keep him there at the top line or if they'll mix it up a little bit. But his point was a great ride for a little bit. I believe he missed yesterday. So his point prop may be at a nice value too for somebody that's centering Marchand and DeBrusque. So yeah, a couple little pieces there. Not both of these teams is hard to get value out of right now. You know, all the main players on Vancouver points are kind of in that minus 200 range unless they're bumped up to 1.5, which they won't be against Boston.
No.
Otherwise, you get these guys who are their shots on goal lines are 1.5, and they're a little bit harder to trust as far as their point props. Garland, I remember, is from the Boston area too. I may need to double check to see what his history looks like against Boston. But again, he's now on the third line for Vancouver, and a little bit of that skill's gone, and the depth now that Kuzmenko kind of got replaced by Lindholm. So they're not stacking that top line anymore, and it's kind of pushed Garland down with more kind of gritty two-way guys. So I don't know. That's kind of what stands out to me just from a big picture view of this game.
Yeah, agreed. Franco, any thoughts from you here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Lindholm as well for the point. I agree. So what you're gonna see here is kind of what you saw in that Calgary or Carolina game where he was minus 110 for a point, which is just kind of silly considering his he was typically like a 130, 140 guy, and even up to like 160, 180 in his good stretches in Calgary historically, but I know he's been down offensively this year in general. But yeah, you're not used to seeing him at minus 110, and you're pairing him with a guy like Pettersson. And, you know, if Besser's on that line, he's minus 140 to minus 160. JT Miller's on that line with him. He's minus 200. So why are we getting Lindholm at minus 110? I'm willing to bet that as long as it's going to be possible. So I love this. They're both from Sweden. So, there's going to be a connection there between those two, at least to start, and we'll see if it continues. But I feel like it's a revitalized type of thing where he was kind of stagnating in Calgary. He had some good stretches historically, at least. This has been just not a good year for him. But I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, he was on an awesome streak with goals, and just betting him every night. It was pretty fun. So we know he has the talent. That's what I'm getting at. And he's now playing on a line. You know, he used to play with Kachuk and Gaudreau, and he went from that to playing with guys like Sharon Govich and Toffoli, and not that those guys are bad, but going back up to a guy of Pettersson's skill and playmaking ability is just awesome for him. And I think that's just a massive plus. So I love that. But I agree as well on the Boston side of things. I want to be backing Boston in this game. I feel like Vancouver came out, they won that game against Carolina. They had a pretty good game overall, but Boston's going to be probably pretty pissed about their performance against Calgary. They didn't look good at all. They had a 3-minute power play. It was a 5-minute power play that was cut short. But it was a 3-minute power play and they didn't score. They had another power play later in the game they didn't score on. It's just like this team, especially with like what they have on that power play, they should be better than that. And I get it, like Calgary's penalty kill's decent, but still, like in that game where you needed it to kind of get some life back into the game, they weren't getting it. So I would expect something better from Boston. Prop wise, like you said, you're not going to get too much value there. So I'm probably not going to look at Boston props or anything like that, but probably Boston money line and Lindholm point and goal would be my bets here.
Yeah, Swayman really struggled in that one too. I don't know if that was the All-Star break hangover or whatnot, but it looks like Allmark's could get the nod tomorrow, which I think is a plus based on kind of their recent performances at least. Next game up here, we got Washington at Florida here. Florida's a heavy favorite in this one, minus 245. Washington plus 200 on the money line. Over under again at 6 here, slightly juiced to the under. But yeah, I'll start with you here, Franco, in this one. Any thoughts on Washington, Florida? I know you said you had a few plays in this one beforehand.
Yeah, so I mean, there's not going to be any value on Florida, but you would expect a bounce back after, again, similar to Boston. It's just a disappointing performance, right? Like they were a team that was red hot going into the break. Reinhart was on fire. all lines were really rolling, at least the top three lines. All guys kind of producing, Kachuk picking it back up. Verhaeghe was hot. Barkov was hot. So to come in and play a home game against Philly and put up 21 shots and score 1 goal, I was pretty pathetic. I don't know if it was just they didn't have their legs or what, but Philly did a good job suppressing shots and seemed pretty pretty good control of the game after that first 10 or 15 minutes. They were getting dominated there for like a nice stretch of that first period, but they kind of stemmed the tide and then took it over in the second, third period. So yeah, I feel like this is a great spot for Florida to bounce back. Barkov has an insane history against Washington, 5 goals, 5 assists in 5 games. So I'm going to be looking at his 2 points for the game. Maybe I'll look at his. I don't know whether I would if I would go like a assist or a goal prop just straight, because he's a guy that could go either way. His shot totals were pretty high in that last game against Philly. He seemed to be one of the guys kind of driving the offense. Reinhart had like no shots. Bennett had no shots, so it was a kind of like a funky game as far as like the guys taking the attempts and stuff like that. So I don't really want to go just goal or just assist, so I'm going to go 2 points for him. Kachuk assist looks really good as well, 6 assists in 6 games against them. So, and I'll probably ride Verhaeghe goal as well. I think you have a guy going into the break who was red hot in Reinhart, right? He was just pretty much an auto bet every game, and I feel like the break is going to just kind of ruin that. We'll see. I mean, maybe I'll sprinkle it if the value is all right, just to see what happens. But I could see that situation where now he doesn't score in like 3 or 4 games, and you're just going to be burning money if you keep betting it. Whereas I think Verhaeghe still is kind of showing it. He had a good amount of shots against Philly, decent history against Washington as well. And I can see probably 4 goals at least from Florida in this game. So maybe look at a team total as well. But I feel like Washington's a team to target.
Yeah, that was my thought exactly. This Florida team total in here. I'm wondering what it's going to be. But Washington has given up 5 goals at least in the last 4 games here, too, whether it's Logren or Kemper and Net, too. Both haven't been fantastic as of late. Florida coming off that 2-1 loss to Philly seems like a great bounce back spot for them, kind of now that they've settled down after the break. Betzky, any thoughts from you on this one?
Yeah, I love the Verhaeghe goal angle he scored last night. It seems like his shot volume had started to drop as far as his attempts went, and then he hit his 3.5 line yesterday. And I would need to look at the data to see how many attempts he had, but he felt like he was the main engine. And like you said, that break may have killed Reinhardt's kind of streak that he had going, and Reinhardt's. I guess he's historically been a little bit better at home, but this season was a little bit different. But when you have a dual scoring threat like that on 2 different lines, it seems like there's waves. So one guy may be the hot one or has the hot stick, and then it kind of transitions. This just so happened to be Verhaeghe and Reinhart were kind of going off at the same time. But now, depending on what happens tomorrow, that torch may pass to Verhaeghe for a little bit. And it doesn't mean that Reinhardt's not going to get hot again, because, again, contract year, he has a lot of motivation to kind of keep up with the rocket pace. But it may be time to kind of pivot to Verhaeghe for a little bit. But I had to look at Ovechkin versus the Panthers, because there's this weird affinity to Russians playing against the Miami-based team. I don't know why. I have theories that it may be a place where they'll get familiar with in the off season, or one of the spots they kind of dream about playing in, or just because it's kind of the opposite weather as Russia. Panarin has great history against the Panthers. I believe Malkin does too. And sure enough, Ovechkin, and granted, he's had a very long career, so there's probably some ups and downs here. He has 43 goals and 45 assists in 70 career games against the Panthers.
Wow.
Just to up that for you, so to make it more recent, 4 goals in his last 5 against them. So the even recent form is good.
And I stayed off him last night, even though he had great history against Montreal. I was just a little worried of how he was going to come out of the All-Star break, but he came out, hit his shots on goal line, had a goal. I may have to write a goal here for Ovi, or at least his shots. But yeah, there's something to it. And I love that he has great recent history. This is kind of his big push too, because who knows how many more years he'll play. If he wants to tie or beat Gretzky's record, he's going to need to get quite a few goals in this last third of the season, because he started off very slow. So that may be a nice little ride. And again, we don't know who'll be in net for Florida. Maybe they'll give Bob one more day off, or maybe they'll be looking ahead for whoever they're playing this weekend. So I don't know. Ovechkin looks kind of nice, and if you like Ovechkin to score, Strome assist is always kind of a nice little tag team on that.
Yeah, another alternate angle too. So Florida obviously heavy favorite in this one, but a first period puck line bet. So Florida's minus a half a goal in this one. They're plus 120. On the road in the last 5 games, Washington is 0-5 in the first period. Florida is 3-1-1 at home. So maybe look there. Kind of a bet that I used to do, but when you have those kind of heavy favorites, is another alternate angle. But I may go back to the well on that one tomorrow, just kind of given how bad Washington has been, specifically kind of starting off. But that's kind of all I had here. Next game up, we have Colorado traveling to Carolina. Carolina is the favorite in this one, minus 142 here. Colorado is plus 120 over under at 6.5 here. So Colorado's lost both the games since the All-Star break. Carolina, as we've mentioned before, coming off that 3-2 loss to Vancouver. Going into the break, they were on a 3-game win streak, so we'll see how they rebound here. Both teams kind of a little bit of a downturn, but I'll start with you here, Franco. Any looks in this one?
Yeah, I want to be on Colorado's side, I think, in this game. Two kind of just weird games. They kind of had that game in hand against the Rangers, and then they got a late goal. Rangers were kind of pushing in that third period. They kind of took over the game a little bit there, and then won in overtime. So they blew that game, and then they fall all the way back against New Jersey, only to give up a goal with like 2 minutes left, and then they lost that game as well. So I could see a situation where Colorado wants to kind of get something done here, and obviously Carolina's probably not happy either, losing that game against Vancouver at home coming out of the break. But yeah, I like I think we're gonna get McKinnon at 3.5 again, man, which is just like it's just stupid to me.
I know.
I'm sorry. Like I don't understand what the hell's going on. I didn't pull the trigger the first game because I'm like, all right, well,
they clearly know something.
Yeah, something, right? But like of all guys, like if it was Kucherov, I'd be like, yeah, like that dude's blasted. Like he's been drinking all freaking weekend. Like he's gonna come out shitty. Okay, fine. Yeah. But McKinnon like is historically like doesn't drink and like super fit, like clean and like all that stuff. So like if there was ever a guy that wasn't going to be coming in hungover in that game, it's McKinnon. He had like 7 shots that first game. So, and then the second game, he just barely got there, but he had like 9 attempts.
Yep.
So if they give me 3.5 again, which they're probably going to because it's Carolina and Carolina doesn't give up shots, all that fun stuff, I'm hammering that. Like there's no way around that. So that would be like my best play there, I guess. But I do want to kind of point out this, I guess, second line, you'll call it, Johansson, Lehkonen, and Parise back from the dead here. So I've actually been watching a decent amount of these 2 games because they've been kind of on while the other games haven't been. And Parise looks kind of good, man. I don't know how to explain it. The dude's like 40. Like, I mean, I don't even know. He came off the streets and he's back playing, skating on the second line with the Avs. I mean, what the hell's going on here? So, but yeah, I mean, these 2 guys pop actually. Lehkonen and Johansson pop against Carolina. So Johansson has 9 points in 10 games against them, and Lehkonen has 6 points in 5 games against them. So obviously McKinnon and Rantanen look great and McCarr looks great and all that fun stuff, but like they're never going to be bettable. They're always going to be super juiced and all that stuff. So I'm very interested to see what those two guys are going to be at, Lehkonen and Johansson. They're not going to give you a pre-day line, but I probably wouldn't want to bet that anyway. But yeah, point props for one of those two. I'm probably expecting plus money, probably plus 125 type of thing for a point for them. So I'll be looking there. And maybe Drew and point, because again, same idea. Like he's getting top line minutes and he's 3 assists in 3 games. So plus money. I mean, I feel like with these teams, you have to kind of start looking at these other guys because you're just backing McKinnon, backing Rantanen there's just no value to be had there for points at least.
Yeah, I would agree there. Betzky, any looks for you?
Yeah, the only one that really would stand out for me is Marty Necas on Carolina. He's been kind of jumping back off the charts as far as his shots attempts go. Kind of the main driver on that second line with Shevnikov out still. And Colorado gives up a good amount of shots to wingers. It's all Carolina gets tricky when they have injuries. They tend to shift their lines around a lot. The defensemen kind of come and go with who's hot or not. He seems really like the only guy I feel comfortable going in on. I'll need to take a look at Aho as well, but man, he's been a hard one to catch on the right games lately. So
yeah.
If there's history there, maybe I lean there, but I probably won't go too hard on this game. And honestly, even the over-under worries me. I don't know which way that would go. Depends on who's in net, but for Carolina, but also you have questions on the Colorado side. If Georgiev's in, I mean, played a nice game against the Rangers until the very end there. And do you trust him on the road at all against a team like Carolina? I don't think I can, but so Colorado money line may be the way to play this though, because I think up until this last back-to-back loss, they hadn't lost 2 road games in a row, if I remember correctly, or
something a lot. Yeah, something.
They may not have even lost 2 games in a row all season or something.
I thought I saw something. Yeah, back-to-back games. They were like 7-0 in their last 7 or something against
something like
going
that.
into New Jersey. Yeah, they were on a tear. But you're right. I think the goaltenders matchup is going to be huge here because if it is Ranta and Georgiev, I think you kind of have to lean towards the under at that situation. They both have been pretty well as of late here. But if you kind of look at what Carolina does, it's really not predictive of any sorts if they throw Martin in maybe or kind of where they go from there. So something to monitor for sure.
And even when you look at their last 10 games, their totals go up and down, and
crazy.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
it's almost like they're able to control bad teams. I mean, no surprise here, better than they are better teams, and it seems like they go more in run and gun mode against higher offense teams, and then they smother teams that they know they can smother.
Is it just me, or like have you guys not had very much success betting Carolina props in general this year? Because I feel like I haven't, and they just I feel like I see them on the slate, and I'm just like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I loved back in Nature's last year and stuff like that.
Chev, like, last year, I mean, you could get both of them for like minus 130.
Jarvis point last year for a nice run too. But like, I like look at it, I scroll down, and I look at them, and I'm like, I don't want to bet any of these guys. So I literally am just like, no, I'm good. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I would agree for sure. All right, next game up here, we have Winnipeg traveling to Philly here. Philly plus 130 on the money line, home dog. Winnipeg minus 155, over under set at 5.5 here. Winnipeg's on a 4-game losing streak, coming off a loss yesterday to Pittsburgh 3-0. Philly on a 5-game losing streak before the break, but they snapped that, defeating Florida 2-1 after the break here. So Betzky, I'll start with you in this one. Any looks in Winnipeg, Philly? It feels like Winnipeg kind of has to bounce back after that terrible effort that they put forth against Pittsburgh. Yeah. But again, Philly is kind of
feels like a trap.
It does. That's exactly what it feels like.
I walked into the trap for the Florida game because I really felt like Philly. I know they were on a 5-game losing streak. I probably should have factored that in more, but the All-Star break can do great things for resetting, and sometimes it kind of lets teams kind of slip and kind of slide their way back into getting into the swing of things. And seems like Philly was a team that responded well, tightened things up. Their main guys were shooting a lot again. Full team effort there. Team D looked great. Urson played a really great game.
Great, yeah. After that kind of stretch of where he allowed, I think 3 or 4 a game for a few, but yeah,
and yeah, obviously the rest did him well. I mean, he was getting kind of ran pretty heavily there, especially since Carter Hart's been out. So, yeah, this is kind of a coin toss for both total and side here. I'd lean the under, but you said it was 5.5,
5.5. Yeah,
yeah,
it's tough.
I guess I'd lean that way. And I kind of like Philly money line. Sometimes teams, as much as you think they're going to respond, it kind of carries over into the next game. And the Jets have a lot. I mean, Scheifele just came back. They inserted Monahan on the second line. Things didn't go quite as smoothly as Lindholm getting inserted into that top line for the Canucks. And it may take them another game, and trying to make those adjustments on the road is difficult. So I may lean on Philly props here too. Konechny's been much better at home. We may get his line at 2.5 for shots, which would be great just because it's Winnipeg, but Winnipeg's been allowing more shots anyways. So if getting him at 3.5 at plus money may be a pretty decent look here. That's kind of what would stand out for me. I would like to take a look at Sean Couturier and see if he has some history against Winnipeg. And then Farabee Point's been awesome for a while too. Tippett being back really helps Philly roll more than one line. Atkinson's always great at home, so that may be another piece, and is probably, I guess, Columbus is in the same division as Winnipeg. But yeah, some of the main big names are kind of where I'd lean. I'm not going to touch Kyle Connor. Probably not going to touch Ehlers yet either. Kind of give the Winnipeg side of things a little bit more time to adjust, but.
Yeah. I guess I'll throw it to you, Franco, here in a second. But we saw Urson kind of take the majority of those games, if not all of them, kind of after the Hart news broke, and he didn't respond terrifically.
No.
Kind of any concern moving forward now that he's going to be that main guy for the next 40 or so games, kind of as we head towards the postseason.
Yeah, I think they need to get a 1B, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
So I think he will function fine as long as there's somebody else there that's going to take maybe like a 40% rate of play. Right now they don't have that guy. They're not going to start Cal Peterson 40% of the games. It's just not happening. So we joked about Mike Smith last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's what I want. I want that there's a veteran goalie that can play that 40%, even like 35%, something.
Yeah.
Just to take it all. He cannot be playing 4 out of the 5 games in a week or whatever it is. It's not going to work, and it's only going to get worse. So clearly the break worked for him. It made him look better. He looked pretty damn good in that game. Defense looked tighter. I think they were a team that, kind of like what we said, it's the opposite of the Panthers, where they were going in the break absolutely running on fumes, just ready to be done with it. And they got the break. Tippett's back. Urson got the break. So I think they're a team to back, at least right now. And I don't think Winnipeg is. So I do like Flyers money line here as well. And I lean the under as well, just kind of to reiterate what Betzky said. But I know a 5.5 is kind of scary to take right now in this modern NHL, right? But we saw it last night. I did my research. I looked at that Winnipeg and Pens game, and I said, historically it looks great. I want that 6. I want that 6.5. Went to go bet it, and there's no 6s to be found. It's 5.5. Those plus money, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it, right? Like Winnipeg's not scoring right now, guys. Like flat out, like that's what it is. Like they're not productive offensively, and they're not finding the net. So I still don't mind. I don't mind the 5.5, to be honest with you, especially if we're gonna get close to even money on it. Maybe I go Winnipeg team total under or something like that. I don't know, but regardless, like they're not scoring. The top guys aren't effective right now. You have a new guy coming in Monahan that kind of shifts the lines. Scheifele's coming off an injury as well. So like, how good is he? How fresh is he right now? So yeah, I mean, I don't want to back Winnipeg. I don't think there's any value on them, and you're getting the Flyers at plus money at home. So yeah, I like both of those props. I'm going right back to Tippett shots as well. I don't really care. He should have had 5 or 4 yesterday. They took one away in the second period, and then he had like 3 misses in the third, which is just like ridiculous. So he's only going to be
3 against,
just in better form.
And 3 against the Panthers, yeah. And your first game back's not anything to scoff at.
Either, no. I mean, he had a good game, and I think he, like you guys said, like he's almost like the engine for this team right now, which is crazy to say because, I mean, he didn't look like that guy last year when they trade for him, and I think he's starting to come into his own. He's got great energy, he's got decent speed, and he just loves firing the puck. So he's kind of coming into like a form right now for this team, and I don't know. I love his shot prop for tomorrow for this game. Winnipeg's in like the middle of the pack, I guess, as far as shots allowed. So, yeah, that's where I'd be kind of going there for this game.
Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg's won 7-2 in their last games to the under, which is kind of an insane run there. So these teams did play January 13th before the break, where Philly won 2-0. The over/under again there was set at 5.5. The interesting thing was both teams had 35 shots in that game, so it was a real battle of the goaltenders in terms of that one. So I don't know if that's any indication of we're kind of hoping for the same thing here with Urson and Hellebuck both kind of playing out of their minds here. But I echo your point, Franco, of Winnipeg, whatever they're doing right now, they cannot score. 3 goals in the last 4 games is kind of crazy for this team after what we saw they could do kind of at the quarter point of the season.
I would consider Hellebuck saves too, with as many shots as Philly's been averaging.
I was just going to say that. Yep, that's
so
exactly
that might be another look.
Yeah, I like that for sure. All right, next game up here, we have Calgary traveling to New Jersey to take on the Devils. The Devils are the home favorite in this one, -142. Over under set at 6.5 here. Calgary coming off a win after the break, and New Jersey's the same. So they both 1-0 following the All-Star break here. Any thoughts on this one, Franco?
I really want to fully goal. That's probably my favorite look of the game right there. So, but he was out with an illness or whatever the last game, so we'll see what happens there. So that would be my only real prop on the Jersey side. Kadri, man, looks like the main beneficiary of this this new power play, and Kuzmenko coming in. So 2 power play goals for them yesterday. Kadri had 4 assists, 3 assists. I forget what the number was, but yeah, I think Kadri assist or point. If you get a point at like -135, I don't mind that either, because he actually has 3 goals in 4 games against the Devils. So maybe don't go assist, maybe just go point if you can. And I'm probably going to go right back to Kuzmenko goal. I mean, what the hell, right? I think he's kind of what this team needed. They didn't have a sniper, so to speak. I mean, their sniper was like Sharon Govich, and like I like Sharon Govich, but like that's not really what you want to be saying as your top line scorer, right? So I think adding him to this team that has some good passers, some good playmakers, it changes the dynamic of this team. And I'm kind of excited for Calgary, to be honest with you guys. Like we were talking about before the show, but I think their center depth is fantastic. And their top 3 lines look pretty damn good now with the addition of Kuzmenko to add that scoring touch that they really have been. I mean, they've been missing it since they lost to Foley, really. I mean, if you think about it. So I think we're going to see a good second half of the season for Calgary.
Yeah. I think last game was kind of an indication of that, but I want to hear your thoughts on this first, Betzky.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a look at Sharon Govich too, though. I mean, he was traded by the Flyers this offseason for Toffoli, so kind of be interesting to see if he can kind of give it back too. I mean, playing with Kuzmenko as well and Huberdeau, whatever you want to say. But another guy who's been great against his shots on goal prop right now is Backlund too. Hit it again yesterday against the Bruins. NJ gives a ton of shots to centers. Was kind of the main reason why I was okay with riding McKinnon last night. I probably will continue to ride Backlund. He's kind of known as a streaky shooter, so I like seeing that he's already hit. And again, think of the mismatches he's going to get with kind of the injuries that Jersey has right now. So kind of like him as far as that depth piece. Another guy that's been sneaky good has been Hannafin, actually. So he's been hitting over his 2.5 shots pretty frequently. He's usually set at 1.5. So if you have alt shots, you can get some extra value there. I'm going to kind of look into the historical matches to see if there's anything else to kind of pull apart there. But again, Jersey's just it's been kind of hard to watch a team that had so much structure last year that just has been having to pivot constantly because of the injuries. And this is a Calgary team that looks like they have a second lease on life. So, Hannafin has also kind of been in trade rumors. So you could always kind of give the whole trying to play himself off the team angle here. And I mean, he'd probably help Jersey quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, New Jersey's kind of adopted the Sabres mindset of just failing to win back-to-back games. I think they've only won 2 games in a row since the start of January. So that's been a decent span. And in terms of history too, very interesting. So Calgary had won 7 straight versus New Jersey. And then the last 3, New Jersey won all 3. So clearly some sort of streaks going on there. Majority of the games have gone over 2 when these two teams have played. So curious to see what the goaltender matchup is. Markstrom obviously looked good in his last 2, but we'll see if Vanacek gets the nod. He was allowed 3+ in his last 2 starts here. So another interesting.
Looked pretty good in that last game, man. That was weird.
Yeah.
I mean, until the wheels fell off in the third, but
Yeah,
but he still held it off.
One more thing. So I had forgotten about Sharon Govich being from the Devils. I'm an idiot, but when I'm betting revenge angles, like when I'm thinking about that stuff, it seems like when a player plays in their former home building or whatever, they seem to have extra motivation. So I love that angle is what I want to say. Basically, I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm an idiot, but so thanks for bringing it up, Betzky. I'll probably be going for his shots. Like I might go him up to 3, and I'll probably get his goal as well, because it just seems like when they return home, they go up that extra notch. We saw it from freaking Miles Wood the other night. Like I bet him 3 shots. Come on, man. Like that was his first game back in New Jersey, 3 shots. So I'm definitely gonna be hitting Sharon Govich in more ways than one, probably.
Also, speaking of Huberdeau, he has 10 assists and 1 goal in his last 10 games. Now, granted, 3 were in the Boston game.
Fantastic, man. He's been really good.
So his assist prop, I'm sure you're getting at least at -120, if not potentially in the plus money range right now.
It's plus money. His point prop has been like -120, -110.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
so
crazy.
I think he's a guy to really start to lean on in the second half, especially if Kuzmenko kind of starts off hot in Calgary. On the goal scoring side of things, these are kind of 2 players that he may be able to find some chemistry with. I'm not convinced Sharon Govich is going to stay as the top center here, but they have the option to move up Backlund. Isn't Connor Zary a center, or was a center in junior? So that may be an option too, or move Kadri up.
Probably, but I feel like they like that second line because they've kept Kadri with their kids for a while now at this point, and they've been relatively productive.
Yeah, maybe Backlund moves up too. I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll see how it goes. But again, that seems just like a nice mix that he hasn't had in a while. Last season, him and Lynn always I thought it would make sense that Lindholm and him would click because it would kind of be like the type of center he had in Barkov, but it just never happened last year. And it seemed like Toffoli kind of was the big shooter, and I don't know. It just never worked for Huberdeau. And for whatever reason, this season it's been quite different. And these two players, I think, are kind of the finishers he needs. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that look for sure. Next game up here, we have Tampa Bay at the Islanders. Here, the Islanders are minus 120. Over under at 6 here, split both ways. So Tampa Bay's been pretty good as of late, 8-2-0 here. New York were 2-7 going into the break here, but they did defeat Toronto in their lone game back in Scotiabank. So yeah, it should be another interesting game here. Kind of shocked. The Isles are favored here. I guess that's my only kind of real thoughts on this one here. Minus 113. I think the money line's moving towards Tampa Bay's direction here. Obviously, Tampa Bay struggled on the road. The Islanders have been great at home, so it makes some sense. But I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this.
Too.
Yeah. So
back to back, and I'm guessing we'd have Johansson in tomorrow.
I guess the line makes more sense with a back to back, and because then it's basically 110 both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I'll take it away if you don't mind.
Yeah, do
it. There's kind of 3 names you got to choose from for the Islanders. I guess 4 if you want to throw in Noah Dobson, but Horvat's still been great. Barzell's been great at home. And Nelson's been great at home. So the only problem is Tampa's been really good against shots lately. I'm curious to see if that's going to hold, but maybe some combo of Barzell and Horvat for a point would look nice here. Dobson assists may be a nice spot here. And then obviously on your Tampa side, Islanders are still allowing a slew of shots. So Kucherov may be in a good spot here, and they allow the 5th most defensemen. So maybe an angle for Hedman as long as his volume looks all right.
Hedman's been solid as of late. 11 points his last 7 too. And speaking of Kucherov, we'll see what kind of effort we'll get out of him tonight. He's been. I mean, he came into the All-Star break red hot. 10 points in his last 4 games here too. So obviously, Stamkos, Cirelli's even been hot. So I mean, there's plethora of names you can go on in terms of the Tampa Bay side, but we're curious to see what they do tonight. Franco, any looks for you in this one?
Yeah, I do want to see how they look tonight, and that will kind of determine how I'm feeling tomorrow for this. But I mean, I just based on historic numbers and stuff like that, I can only really look at Tampa. I mean, it's crazy how good the numbers are for the Tampa players as compared to the Isles players. You look like Braden Point, 9 points in 5 games, Kucherov 7 in 5 games, Stammer 5 goals in 6 games against them, Hedman 4 assists in 6 games against them. Freaking Taryn Janot has 3 goals in 6 games against them. I know he's not playing.
Wow.
I mean, Sergachev 5 points in 6 games, Hagel 4 points in 6. I mean, like literally. Pick a player and like bet his prop, and you're probably going to cash, at least according to the historic numbers. So, I mean, it looks like Tampa is going to score a ton of goals. I know they've been horrible on the road, and that would be like the only thing giving me pause here. But you're giving me Tampa at plus money on the on the money line. I want to see how they look tonight. I want to see if Kucherov gives a shit tonight. And I mean, if it's back to action, which I honestly think that. It's just a thing with him where he's just like didn't want to be there, and he's going to come out and kill tonight, and we're just going to be, oh, there's Cooch. Yep, he's still
especially because he has the naysayers now.
Yeah, he's going to be extra motivated. I can't wait. I hope they play Toronto, like in Toronto, relatively soon.
I was going to say,
hell out of that 2 points, goal, everything. But so yeah, I mean. Kucherov 2 points looks pretty good in that game. I would say 2 points looks good in that game. Like I said, I mean, pick what you want, really.
So do we all agree on the over then?
Team total over, maybe. Is
Yeah.
what and if Johansson's in net, then I guess the whole thing
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I don't mind that if it's definitely Johansson. I don't see why they would start Vasi 2 games in a row. That doesn't make any sense. So
Nope.
I think I like that.
Yeah, April 3rd. Mark your calendars too. That's the next time Tampa Bay travels to Scotiabank. So
Yep.
that should be one for sure. And yeah, I mean, Johansson obviously had a great game out. His last start against Buffalo, his old team, but that was kind of the narrative in that one, was that he was going to put out. But outside of that start, he's been pretty much a 3+ goals against per game guy. So I don't mind that over as well in this game, Betzky. All right, the last game up on the slate here, we got Vegas traveling to the Yotes. Yotes plus 124 on the money line here. Vegas minus 148. Vegas obviously coming off that strong win against the Oilers, snapping their 16-game win streak here. Arizona on a 3-game losing streak, and I believe their first game back from the break here. So,
Yeah.
Betzky, I'll let you take it away on this one.
Yeah, these are teams that Arizona doesn't play very well. These bigger teams. And Aiden Hill, mind you, used to be a Coyote, came through our system until we traded him to San Jose. I will probably have to lean Vegas props here. Marcia Schultz's been great on the road. So I'll probably lean into his shot props. On top of it, Arizona has been taking a ton of penalties again. Kind of old habits die hard situation for them, and that means more power play time, more space for Marcia Schultz, which is exactly kind of what you want here. Stone had kind of cooled off, and he got a point last night, though, right? That second line is much better at home. But again, the value you can get on Barbashev being on the top line with Marcia Schultz is still crazy. I think he had a 4-point streak or a 5-point game point streak on that last road trip. And again, Marcia Schultz more of a road dog to begin with too. I kind of like that Stone's not with Barbashev. This configuration seems to be a lot more productive for Vegas. So those are kind of probably the areas I will kind of lean into this. I don't know where I would take the Arizona props right now. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how the team reacts with kind of the arena news hanging over them right now and kind of coming up again. And again, Hill may be able to really kind of shut us down, even if we have kind of the idea of how he plays and know where his tendencies are. He's a much different goaltender than when he was on AZ. So, and real quickly, I just don't think we shoot enough.
No, for Ingram.
Oh, for Ingram. Yeah, that may be a decent look too, actually. I don't mind that.
Yeah, Arizona's given up 39, 37, and 42 shots against the last 3 games here.
Yeah, and we are giving up the second most power play opportunities in the last 10. So, yeah, Vegas should have plenty of time to shoot against us.
Yeah. Any other looks here, Betzky, or?
I may look into see if Schmaltz has a good history against Vegas. He had been heating up right before the break. And if his shots are at 2.5, you're going to get tremendous value on it. And he had been hitting it recently. So I may take a look there and just kind of see if that's a thing. And just kind of really dissect his home away charts and just kind of see if it's worth the risk or not.
Yeah, the total set it's 5.5 here, so it's kind of low. But interesting note: Vegas team total at 3.5 is around plus 120. So that could be another look in this one as well, depending on who starts for Arizona.
Yeah, and Arizona's much improved this season, but they can still give up stinkers. And again, we don't play bigger teams well, like Vegas, like LA. So. Like Winnipeg. So those are kind of teams that can really kind of manhandle us. So
you guys beat them earlier this year.
Vegas?
Yeah,
that's right. But that's a rare occurrence.
Yeah. All right, Franco, any looks for you in this one?
So I kind of feel like this is a tight game. I feel like this could be an under.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's in Arizona, right? So like that's always the argument, is that Arizona plays up, at least in these games, right? So I get Betzky's sentiment that Vegas could stomp them, and maybe that is going to happen, but I would think they have a better chance at keeping it tight at home. So I kind of lean that way. I do like a Schmaltz and Keller point parlay. Both of them have decent histories against Vegas, so I might do that. And I mean, you already said it. That line has been fantastic. Marchessault, Barbashev, and Wah. So you're getting insane value on both Barbashev and Wah. So continue to rock them and rock their points, because Marchessault is going to be minus 150 or whatever. So take whoever has good odds, and I like it. So that's probably it for me on that game, though. I would say that under, and then either Barbashev or Watt point would be like my best plays here.
Yeah.
Real
All right.
quickly,
Well,
at least according to StatMuse, maybe I typed it in wrong. Vegas has 5, 4, 6, 1, and 7 goals against Arizona in the last 5.
Are those all? How many of those are in Arizona though?
The 1 goal game is in Arizona, and the 7-1 win was in Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, Arizona.
That would have been those games actually may not have been while they were in Mullet.
Arizona seems like when they're the home team, it's much it's lower scoring here. I think if I'm looking at this correctly, 5 of the last 6 games, 4 of the last 5 have gone under in when Arizona's the home team. So
I don't think Vegas has played in Mullet.
No,
January 22,
January
22nd,
22.
2020. Yeah,
that had to have been
When?
That was a January last year was 4-1.
Oh, see,
but the other thing too, like
I'm not seeing that game for some reason on StatMuse.
I feel like Arizona's goaltending is just way better than it was then, right? So like that was a 4-1 UX win, right? I mean, freaking, I'm trying to see who the goalie was. That was probably
for some reason it wasn't showing the last 2 games for me, but
Vejmelka 36 saves. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think that under might be the look, man. And because I mean, Ingram has been good, man, and he's going to get the start. You would think. So
yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't.
the other one more recently, or the one after that, was Scott Wedgwood in net. So that shows how far back it was.
Wow. Also, it's been extremely rainy here, so the ice conditions may be sloppy as hell.
That plays to the under then too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
God, it's another 5.5, but
it's harder to. I mean, it's a tiny rink. It's going to be hard to keep the ice at a cool level with the humidity.
Yeah.
So.
If that total jumps up to 6, I don't mind hitting the under on that one as well.
Yep.
And based on the trends too, now it's minus 122 to the over. So hopefully we get 6 before puck drop, and you're gonna have enough time because that's one of the later games. So depending on how your bets do, it can always be a late bet that you fired off. But
true.
All right, you guys want to shout out your socials one last time here?
Yeah, Franco the Banker on Twitter,
and I'm Gretzky Betzky's on Twitter.
Awesome. And you can find Betzky in the Parlay Science Discord.
Yeah.
As always. You can find our podcast on Twitter at ExpectedBets4 and myself on Twitter at Gator Betting. We appreciate everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.